Yeah, I'm burned out. How much did you? Just crispy. Just crispy. Last night was tough enough. This is, I'm telling you, 43 years, I have never seen this type of action sustained for as long as it. I mean, this has been almost 4 weeks of this. It's quite unbelievable. And of course, we got hit with a new regime last night or over the weekend with Putin. And I have my thoughts about that. But what else is going on?
I'm trying to decide whether to cover some shorts from Thursday.
You and me both, Matt.
Yeah. I mean, I would have liked to have seen a late afternoon sell-off to take out the low that we put in earlier, or at least that 27.20 to 30 area, which it's been a big area for us.
Yeah, you see, I think Friday's late rally trapped a lot of people.
It did.
It was a pretty powerful rally, and it was kind of sustained. So, I mean, not for myself, but it affected a lot of different asset classes late. I mean, the debt markets are just, those are, when I say debt markets, of course, I mean the bond markets and everything else that goes with it are just unbelievable.
But
Unbelievable.
The point and figure really picked up that late rally to nowhere because it was a retest of that channel line where it broke down from.
Yeah. Well, we did have our S&P bond give away pretty nice amount. That had no chance.
None.
Oh my God. I mean, that was, wow. Wow. That's all I can say is, wow.
I mean, look at it on the quarterly. It's just toast. I mean, that's a long, long time to repair.
Yep. They've done a lot of damage here. And you know what? And I haven't had the TV on for months. But now I have to, because the Bloomberg radio on Sirius, which is where I get it from, has a 3-minute delay on it. So that's, in today's world, that's not helping me. So I had to put on the idiot box. So I've been watching and listening to the ridiculous commentary. It is it's amazing. And Jeremy Siegel, I thought he was going to break down into tears. And I don't mean to belittle him. I have a lot of respect for him, but wow, this has been one hell of a run, and there's no easy aspect. So you say you're surprised I called in. I was so busy last night doing so many different things that by the time in the morning I would go to sleep. I got 6 hours of sleep. I woke up, and actually when I woke up, markets were really pretty much where I had put them to bed last night, which really shocked me. Really shocked me. And that's really, there's, you know, I have my view as to how this somewhat could be resolved, because I don't think today's had anything to do with the virus whatsoever here. Well, except the virus does stay with us, and people are starting to see it as the potential demand shock, which everybody tried to talk me off of, but I still think that's the preeminent moment of it. But this oil is interesting because it's filled with everything I love. And what would that be, Pax?
Context and nuance.
That's correct.
It is.
Got plenty of that. Plenty of that.
Yeah, and the high absolutely blew today in the oil.
Well, we're at 34. What was the high? 34.
34.88. That just I put that number out on the sheets. I don't know where I dragged that from, 2016 or something.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that the Saudis and Russians aren't actually working together here. As you start to, you got to step back and you know, the problem with all this analysis is that you really see how static it is. You know, it's like, you know, they start with the premise that America runs the game. America's not running the game like it used to. again, I go back to the Graham Allison peace and foreign affairs. They're just not running it, and everybody wants to see it through those eyes. And if you start to move away from that and realize the world is far more dynamic than that. You know, everybody has static analysis, which is, well, how do you think this is going to be? You know, everybody else is in motion. Everybody else is in motion. The world does not begin and end on Capitol Hill and in the White House. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And no matter how many times CNBC says live from the most powerful city in the world, you know, I find that, I always find it, and I've been arguing that for years, that's a silly introduction, especially when you worry more about on any given day what the Chinese have done or somebody else has done. So it's not the most powerful city in the world. Maybe you have the most powerful response, but the cause-effect relationship is far more volatile than that. I mean, and we're seeing that volatility. When I saw the news on Saturday night about Saudi Arabia and the Russians, I go, I had dinner with some people. I said, Sunday night could be crazy. And they said, why, the virus? I said, no, viruses. No, the Russians, the oil markets are going to take a hitter, and that's going to affect a lot of other things. And people just, they don't get that. And I'm going to tell you what, Trump and his minions were out, lower oil price, lower energy prices. I tell you what, the place where jobs are going to be lost, and they are going to be lost in large numbers, and those are good, high-paying jobs. So number one, we'll start to look at those average hourly earnings. You start to lose energy jobs, you're going to really impact average hourly earnings.
And
Number
all
two,
those voted for Trump.
Yeah, that's right, Judd. That's where I was. Number
Trump.
Two, those are Trump states. And now you've got the agricultural sector getting hit, and you've got the energy sector getting hit. I'm going to tell you what, again, somebody better start to connect the dots here. And you know what, again, in seeing this through a dynamic lens, I know it gets, I'm beating the drum, but what does Putin want? What does Putin want? And if he really wants to get out from under those sanctions, just to show that he can, because somebody said, well, they're not having that much effect anyway. That's a fact. So you're willing to risk this much as far as the economy for not much impact? I'd say that's a pretty stupid policy. This is not Cuba 1959. And the United States has overplayed the sanction hand. Yeah, I know Iran is struggling. And it may be directed at Iran. You know, the Saudis may be saying, hey, we could break Iran here. You know, there's a lot of elements that go into this game. And that they got, cooperation with the Russians, and it's just, one big, as I said to you this morning, Purim story. Pax, you got to get to work on that to understand that. But,
Thank you. Yes, I started. Thank you. And by the way, happy Purim. Thank you.
Tonight, you're supposed to drink enough so you don't know the difference between Mordechai or Haman. So I think now we drink enough that we don't know the difference between Russia or the Saudi Arabians.
I'm in. My kind of new holiday.
Hey,
Pax is going to get dressed and dragged tonight and run around the neighborhood in the South Side.
That's right. Pax will be Queen Esther. He'll be a big hit. He'll be a big hit at the Kingdom Hall on 77th and Stony.
You'll look like the pinkish.
He'll be, because the Jehovah's Witnesses are big into Esther. They're big into Esther, so I think you should meander in there and see what happens. I've been there, believe it or not.
I will. I'll head in there. See.
I was at a wedding. It's not on Stony Island, but it's right on Stony Island. I was there about 3 years ago for a wedding. It was really cool, a lot of fun. But this has a lot to do, and if somebody better wake Mike Pompeo up, because there's work to be done here. And you've seen how Putin was really, really pissed about them, going after Nord Stream, because Nord Stream 2 is almost done, and then they were going to sanction the pipeline companies out of Switzerland for for working on it, and anybody else involved, and anybody who's financing it. The Russians were none too happy. You know what? And don't think that you're controlling the game. Other people have alternatives, and old wily Putin has a few cards to play. And I'm not talking about getting involved in elections either.
Lavrov.
Probably,
Putin and Lavrov.
now yeah, that's right. Listen to Lavrov, because he kind of tells it the way it is if you listen to him. He's pretty straightforward, but you know, this time he's getting involved and he's working against Putin. I mean, he's working against Trump. This is not helping Trump. Lower oil prices. This is not the days of Jimmy Carter. Lower oil prices, you know, are more than a two-edged sword. And as I put in the blog last night, this goes back to 1986 when George Bush went over to Saudi Arabia to get them to cut production in an effort to save the Texas energy. Because prices had dropped down to $10 a barrel from 30, and it was really impacting, in a very negative sense, the whole energy sector down in Texas. And George Bush was the sitting vice president and went over to Saudi Arabia to try to get them to cut back. So we've seen it before. Again, it's just like with the Fed. These things, they're not new. They're out there. It's a matter of looking at them and saying, wow, can these things really be going on in place? And I would say yes. Yes, I think they can. And again, well, how much bang are you getting for your buck? These sanctions, as I call them, the sanctimonious asses, and that's not a political statement because that goes back to Clinton, to Bush, to Obama. Everybody wears it. So, but there's a lot of sanctimonious attitude in that. And again, I would implore you to go buy the Foreign Affairs and read Graham Allison's piece on spheres of influence. I think it's very important, especially in these times, to be able to put a better handle on some of the stuff that's going on. But we talked about the great opportunity. Yes.
Ira, you know, MBS, he's the one that kicked it off this weekend. And
maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not going to disagree with you. Yeah, maybe.
But he's also rounded up a whole bunch more people, threw him in the slammer, and I got a feeling this guy's going to get assassinated by his own people, of course.
Yeah.
No, we don't have speculation.
That's a major thing. So you better be successful. You know, it's like trying to kill. It's like trying to kill Vito Corleone. You only get one shot at it, and you better make it good, because they don't take kindly to it.
I know.
And you know what? Don't forget, the Russians and the Saudis have been doing so much together, talking, and you know, the King of Saudi Arabia went to Moscow in 2016. You know, there's things that have been going on. I'm watching this one closely. I gotta see what's.
Well, you know, but you know, the U.S. oil industry is a high capital cost and lots of cheap capital available, and they've been increasing production this year still into the teeth of a slowdown, and they're super vulnerable, and so they'd like to destroy some of that production, right?
That's a really good point. And one of the guys, in fact, well, he's not coming today. He just sent a note. One of the guys I sit here with in Arizona on Mondays has been a wildcatter out of Kansas for 40, 45 years. And I'm telling you, he's been telling us what's going on down in the Permian, that there are a lot of people involved who are going bust, because even at $50 they were struggling.
Yeah.
So now, and there's a shitload of debt that either had to be rolled over or paid off over the next 18 months.
Who's holding all that
and
paper anyway?
Well, a lot of it is private equity. A lot of it is private equity guys.
Them private equity geniuses show up again. Oh my God.
Yeah, they always show up because they're late to the party and they want to get in and they're getting a return. And again, because it's private equity, a lot of them are marking, the great mark to mark, they mark their books as their valuations. And so, I've talked to some people who've actually been put into some of that debt by some of their, their portfolio managers. And I'd look at them, I go, are you out of your mind? Well, it's paying really well. I said, yeah, except when it's not. And this guy, Mike, from Kansas, he's been warning him. He's been told all of us. And over the weekend, when I saw that story, I sent him and I were exchanging emails because I didn't see him. I wouldn't see him until today. And he said, this is a whole new world unfolding here. So again, if you look through this and what Putin has done through a more dynamic lens, then you can see certain things avail themselves. And if I ran the Fed today, their problem is, we talked about it, and I said that the Fed's action was, in my opinion, based on a move to try to push the dollar lower. But they need to get the dollar lower against the emerging markets. Well, right now this is not helping the emerging markets because you saw I think the peso was down 12% last night at one time. I'm not far off, maybe more. And the ruble got crushed too. So these are, they've been hitting the emerging markets currencies, which will have a bigger impact because that's where the dollar really needs to weaken to allow it to let up a little bit on their payments because they owe dollars. And that's not happening. You saw with the Canadian because, everything with energy, anything that's commodity related, except as Judd pointed out, the Kiwi and the Aussie did try to rally at one time. They've come back, but they did try when it looked like the market was going to actually try to settle itself. The Kiwi, but they couldn't sustain itself. But if I'm the Fed, I am announcing tonight that I'm willing to open up swap lines to Mexico, Russia, it won't work. But the Turks are in a little trouble, the Brazilian reals, that I'm willing to make dollars available to anybody who needs it. And we'll talk about what you're going to swap me, but I will make dollars readily available because that's where the pressure is right now, and that's where it's going to have to be alleviated. Cutting rates to zero is not going to do a damn thing. The markets do it for them anyway. What was the low in the 10-year tree? 37 basis points? 37.
Something ridiculous.
I was watching it last night. It was
398.
But huh?
It's 39.8.
39.8. And what was the low in the 30-year?
8/10 of a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching
83.7.
I was watching it so closely last night. In the old IRA, I would have been selling it into it and selling it, going, "This is insane." Not a lick. I just stood and watched it.
All right. Here's a tidbit for you. The investment grade corporate bond ETF (LQD), which is 50% triple B, is starting to trade like junk today. All of a sudden, before it was trading, was going up with as interest rates fell. Well, today it's down 2%.
I'm sorry. Which one was that?
It's LQD. It's an investment grade.
Oh, yeah,
corporate
liquid.
bond.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this last week. The spread between TLT and HYG. I showed it to my wife today. She couldn't believe it. I mean, that spread has moved. When last time we got around it moved $19 in like 3 days.
Well, this is the first day. I think this is the first day that LQD is traded on credit. Like this guy, like there's a credit problem going on. It just started.
Yeah.
That's
Look at the TLT, it's already sold off quite a bit, but it is.
Well, the June bonds came down half of the gap and then rallied again when we broke.
I put a book. I put a bunch back on. I took them off beautifully last night because I felt that, so I lifted my 5 leg. That's the only thing I did, and then sold the 2s into as they rallied up. It was actually almost the way I could execute in a pit. But that's only because the markets, opened and gave you actually a chance. So, I mean, I made sure I was sitting at my desk at 5 o'clock your time, which is now 3. We don't set clocks forward in Arizona, so I was I timed everything to it. I got the blog out by 2 o'clock and was chomping at the bit. And then after about 3 hours of that, I went and took a run because I was just toast. And then I came back and kind of finished up the night. But I'm telling you, the Fed has to do 2 things here. They have to get the emerging market currencies stronger against the dollar, and they've got to steepen these curves. And if I hear one more of these idiots talk about intervening, Santelli had it right. And then, today, along with a few others, start pushing all the 10-year out you can to steepen the curve. And if you're going to do any QE buying, buy 2 years or less. Leo Brainerd, with that idiot putting a cap on the curve, will absolutely destroy the banks. And I'm getting ready to
called me, said you were sending some funds over.
Judd,
I'm
Peter out, will you?
Yeah, I just did. And Ira, the other thing I wanted to point out to you was that the peso last night went to the basically the January 2017 dollar high. So
Judd, I saw that. Because you know what, I actually started imbibing a little bit in there. Very small, trading 10 or 20 pesos, it's like, and I'm going, well, this is insanity. And you could just see it melting away. Yeah, it got down there right into the face of it.
Well, it matches up with all the quarterly averages in NASDAQ bonds.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's interesting to say that, and it didn't make a new low, so it's kind of like, and you know what? Take a bow, everybody in this room, when we talked about the S&P bonds not making a new high at 21.18.
Yeah, that was just huge.
It was huge. It said if you're looking to get short the S&P, the long bonds, you had a very low risk play.
We were trading, if I'm correct, if I'm right, and I'd have to look at my notes, but we were trading at around 33.40 in the S&P, or 33.40 to 60 when we hit that target, when we hit that level. In the bottom.
Yeah, pull those notes out. I think that's
3,400 in this. It's amazing because in 2017, when the S&Ps were at 2,500 and you were a Top Step and you made that call, that was when we got the 29.65 target with a 29.44 high and a 500 point plus sell off. And this time the target was 3,400, matching the double top area in the SPU bonds, and you got another 500 plus point sell off.
Yep. You know what? That's a very good, Judd. That's a good assessment right there. And you see how well they match up. It's not happenstance. When it keeps doing this, there's something to it. That's all. That's all I'm going to say. That's all we're going to see. There is something to it.
Ira, so since then, and I know what your answer is, of course, but since then, since shorting at that area, we talk about the market knowing, always pricing itself, where it's always being priced where it's supposed to be priced. We gapped down and opened up the following Monday after the SPU bond, after failing to take out that high, and the matchup at 34 even, all right, 3 points shy or 2.5 points shy, forgive us. We opened up at the yearly opening range the following Monday, and we haven't looked back.
Yeah.
I'm still short there. I've not covered. Got no reason to.
I know it. And we said, no holds barred. It's a simplistic chart. Everybody hates it, but it catches a lot of stuff in its simplicity. And it can't be just pure happenstance anymore. I've seen it too many times, but whatever. You see everything else, but I'm kind of amazed at how orderly the markets really do trade it.
Yes, me too.
I know that seems weird, but I'm looking at commodities. I mean, the oil, wow. When you think about where the oil is relative to that spike that night when they killed the Iranian general,
$65.
January 6th or 8th. Well, see, and again, credit events are forever. Outbreaks of violence, one-off. Because you are right now in the throes of a potential. We did this starting with an economic stress point that is now headed to real financial ramifications. And somebody better wake up in the White House. I figured Kudlow must have sold his 100 shares of IBM that he bought the other day to hold up the market. Hey, you know what? When you come out and start telling people that they should, this is a good place to buy equity, you bear whatever criticisms you're going to get. And if I want to poke fun at him, he deserves it.
Agreed.
What do you think this is? What do you think this is? The floor of the New York Stock Exchange in 1929 when the president of the New York Stock Exchange went around on a court telling everybody to buy to support the market? No. You know what? It doesn't work. So the fact that he said that, I go, no, you guys got a lot more work to do than that. Than telling everybody where to, what they should be doing with their money. And you know what? So if I want to poke fun at him and say, I wonder if he sold out his 100 shares of IBM today. Fair game.
Their blame game's getting more bizarre every day.
Oh my God. You know what? And again, this is not a political statement because I am ambivalent on Trump. There are things that he has done that have been, I think, very good. I'm not wild about the way he presents them, but when you cut through to what the policy is, not bad policy. But first of all, that press conference about the virus last Wednesday night, they finally got smart because all they did was put Tony Fauci out there all weekend. And I mean, he's great because he's a scientist and he just tells us the way it is and he doesn't care. What are you going to do, fire me? My brother said he's the most in-demand guy right now. He can go do whatever he wants as soon as he walks away from here because people see him. My brother actually knows him pretty well, so they see him for the guy he is and how good and capable he is. He said, not a problem. Not a problem. So somebody finally woke up and said, let the people who know talk. As I like to say in the blog, those who know don't say, and those who say don't know.
That's right.
Yes, and you can apply it to me. It's okay. But I tell you when I'm going into the dark recesses of my mind. So you can either travel with me or you can't travel. Wherever you want to go. But we got the ECB. We'll on Wednesday we'll probably talk. But the ECB is going to be interesting. I hope she has the how do we say that, Pax? The Goyons?
Yeah, the Goyons. She's an owl. She doesn't have any Goyons.
Yes. Well, the owls, I don't know what they got, but they see pretty good in the dark. So I hope her vision is great.
It'll be interesting to see what she does.
It will be.
Because everybody's
It will
waiting
be.
for her.
Well, you know why? Because they throw the same crap. That's when I couldn't take it. I had to turn everything off on Friday. I couldn't take it. The ECB is putting, they'll be cutting. Because that's the knee jerk that everybody's been spoon fed by Draghi and Yellen. And well, I'm not going to paint Yellen in that. That's a bad rap for her because I think she really wanted to get the process of unwinding some of this. But Bernanke certainly, because what he did in May and June of 2013 whatever he did good, that ended it when he ran, because that was the time they should have been beginning to unwind all the crap and to start, undoing the stuff that they did. But the taper tantrum came and it caught him. And that's really about it. But the credit market and the European credit markets, wow.
Well,
and I haven't been
what they did with the Italian Bund last night was unbelievable.
Oh, God. And I love trading that stuff. I have not been trading it. I've been watching it, but it comes over you so fast, and the liquidity, that liquidity truly disappears. Not the Bund, because the Bund is doing, you know what? Again, I locked up with a few guys, Gunlot, not directly, but when Gunlot and Gross were putting out that the Bunds were the greatest sale of a lifetime and they were trading 25 basis points, I said, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I would rather sell the French or the Spanish or something else. I wouldn't be selling the Bunds because the Bunds has value as collateral, and you're seeing it now. That's why the Bunds are moving so dramatically, because everybody wants them because they're the highest grade collateral through repo and just high liquid, high quality liquid assets. That's the Bund. You cannot be short that thing, and if you're short, you're having to take it back because it's such a demand for everybody who's got to post collateral.
Well, you had one shot to trade it at one at when it went up and filled its gap.
What did? I'm sorry.
The Bunds.
Oh, yeah.
Bunds went up and filled its gap at 179.04 on the daily active daily.
Yeah, but we made all-time lows in the yield because the previous was 71, and I think we went up to 87. But again, remember, that's the coupon differential that I tell you about. You're
Right.
seeing it in the U.S. Treasuries too. So, I mean, it is amazing the velocity and volatility of the financial markets right now. Really amazing. I'm in awe. I have to tell you, as I wrote to you last night, Judd, this is insanity. This is insanity on steroids, and then probably to the 10th degree. I mean, I am seeing things that I never thought I would see, and I've lived through a lot. Again, I can go through the whole litany of it. I've seen a lot of stuff in my 43 years of trading. Nothing like this with the ability to sustain itself. And I'm not sure whether it's just a machine, because human beings could not have sustained this if we were on the floor. Because you couldn't sustain it.
I mean, I was joking with Angelo on Friday because I had a target in the 30-year in the 187s on a swing con.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at him going, no, 17 points? No way. But the numbers are the numbers. And then they go print it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Jews picked up the number.
I caught 110 points of downside in Tesla today.
Give me, give me 2 more points right here, please.
Peter.
Right here. 2 more points.
Who did that?
Peter did.
Who did that?
Peter.
Wow. You know what?
Come on.
What the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
And Peter, all the Robin hoodies were locked out of the market today too. So you have tomorrow in your favor.
They're going to be stopped out.
What the hell?
I just bought
You
my
can't buy a brother of Beyond Burger or something? What the hell?
Oh my God. My heart's, I might have a heart attack. I just bought my 2721s. That was one of the hardest holds I've had in a while. I just flipped, and then I jumped up and I flipped over and I've got a bad back. I flipped over my medicine ball. I sit on it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Sean, the Robin hoodies couldn't do donkey today.
No, they got locked out again. I guess free isn't so good all the time,
One of the things at Robinhood is they publicize what the most popular stocks are, so these neophyte geniuses can, have a buy list. So they're all kind of buying the exact same stocks.
Yeah. Gee, they'll chase each other. As Shoshana Zuboff says so eloquently in the book, the Age of Surveillance Capitalism, if it's free, you're the product.
If it's free, you're the product. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, that's so true. In fact,
That's true.
I want to send my daughter some money, and she lives in Holland, and she said, do it on this, Dad. It's transfer-wise. It's really cheap. So I started doing it, and I got like halfway through, and I'm entering some private, like my birth date. All of a sudden, I said, am I fucking stupid? I'm not doing that.
Yes, you are.
I'm not
Yes,
doing
you
that.
are.
I
I'll
canceled
answer
it.
that question.
I canceled. Like, I'm going to go another way that I like PayPal that I trust. And they'll charge me more. So what?
I was at CVS the other night trying to buy some Purell, just one bottle because I don't hoard, couldn't get it. But I did buy something else. Oh, they had Mike and Ike's three big boxes for $3. So I bought those. And the woman says, "Oh, we don't have your email number, your email." I said, "And you're not going to have it." And she looked at me and she said, "What?" I said, "No, you can't have my email." Why? So you're going to inundate me with crap? No, thanks. There's a line well ahead of you. And she was like, she was insulted. She was insulted. Won't be the last woman I insult. All right, I'm going to go. But Wednesday, because I think we'll do a big prep for the ECB. We'll see. We'll get a better clearance as to where we're at.
Okay.
But you see where the euro is. They're all short on the inverse carry and still struggling. Now we're definitively above the 200-week moving average on the euro currency, but we'll see. They'll probably sell it off one or 2 days this week. I've actually traded that well. I can't complain. But I think they'll probably sell it off in anticipation because they'll build up that she's going to do something. I'm not in that camp, so I have a bias, but I'll explain to you my bias. And my bias doesn't mean anything. It's just prepping for what potential outcomes are for. That's all we care about, right?
Yeah.
And I go back to the famous one we prepped for the Fed meeting that time.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, well, I think it was June. June? Maybe
yeah, it
not.
was. It was June.
In the September ECB meeting, we made a fortune on.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That was a good. Right. I know where I was at.
Yeah, you were being
Amarillo
by the Branch Davidians.
I was at Amarillo eating a 72-ounce steak with Homer Simpson.
That's funny.
Hey, Ira, I've got one little piece of Saudi Moscow information that may or may not be useful.
I love that.
All right. So one of the research firms that I use, they're two energy policy analysts. One of them was a former OPEC minister, and the other one in the energy space. So they were both in Vienna. And when the Saudis and the Russians broke out to a separate meeting, I think it was late morning, they were expecting them after just an hour or two to come out with a deal. And instead, the meeting lasted until late afternoon, early evening, and no deal. So their conclusion was this doesn't mean that the two parties can't come to some agreement. But at the moment, for some reason, Russia is just, off on, some other tangent for whatever reason. And I guess eventually it'll come to fruition, but they could not come to an agreement after, let's call it an all-day meeting that was expected to only be an hour or two.
Yeah. Yeah, because they were having a party. They were drinking vodka and smoking a hookah, and, we don't have to be here.
Yeah, I'll tell you one other thing.
And they brought in the Russian women for the Saudis.
Yeah.
Why not?
But Ira,
Why not?
two weeks
They have
ago.
good taste. Yeah.
2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I found it really, really interesting how Belarus basically stood up to Moscow, because Moscow started to threaten them that they would cut off their oil if they got too close to the EU. And then Belarus said, kiss my butt. If you do that, we're going to confiscate oil going through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline.
Yeah.
And Moscow backed off.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
But you know what? You can stand up, but there are certain places where he's got way too much leverage. And I'm telling you, you know what? If in fact the Saudis and the Russians are at each other's throat on this, I'm just not getting there yet. But I'll tell you what, the Saudis have a lot of vulnerabilities, and the umbrella of the U.S. is not quite the umbrella that it was 25, 30 years ago. You know, when the Saudis could thumb their nose at everybody, and they knew that the U.S. was always going to be there to protect them because they wanted the oil. And they wanted to ensure the flow of oil for the entire world. That's not the world we live in right now. And I'll tell you what, say what you want, Mecca and Medina are juicy targets. And you could say, well, the whole Muslim world would rise up. No, not necessarily. There are those who are not wild that the Saudis control the two holiest sites in Islam. And one of those who isn't so wild about it sits in Tehran. So the world is very interesting.
No, I agree with you on everything you just
Very
said.
interesting.
You know, but I was just I was just impressed, you know, that Belarus said you're not going to tell us what to do. You know.
No, I respect that. You know what? I respect that. Hey, I was thinking about it because my old man flew those flights over Palesti to the big oil fields in Romania.
Yeah.
My dad was on those bombing missions during the war.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, probably the most horrendous bombs ever. They lost, I don't know, 40 or 50% of the planes.
Wow.
Yeah, they flew out of Bari, Italy,
Wow.
across the Adriatic, bombed the oil fields. But in order to bomb them, they had to come in so low that the ones who were not at the front of the formation, a lot of them got burned up from the flames that were shooting in the sky.
I got to tell you that really, that's amazing. Just thinking about being a 20-year-old kid, you know, 19, 20, 21-year-old man. The old guys were 25, 26, right? And you're jumping up in one of those flying fortresses, getting, oh my Lord.
Hey,
the best.
my old man, when I'd have a couple
take off, Ira, until he went back and put on his.
Oh yeah, that's a nice story. But when we'd have a couple of shots of Johnny Walker and he would talk about it, he was always interested, and he would be honest and tell you, hey, I was 22 years old. It was from 8 kids and lived in a 2-bedroom apartment on the west side. He said, going to war, getting 3 square meals a day and having a cot of my own. He said, wasn't so bad.
Or a shower, right? First time my dad took a shower was in
everything.
the Army. Yeah.
3 square meals. And you know what? He said, hey, he says, I won't admit that too openly, but because I used to tease him. I go, you know what? You never paid into Medicare. You're getting all this suck, and you're on welfare. And he'd get pissed at me. we had a great relationship, but he would tell me things like that. All right, I'll see you guys Wednesday.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Ira.
Thanks, Ira.
Ciao.
Sorry, I got a little carried away there.
All right, come on. Let me 1 second. It's not letting me stop.